Hey guys, I'm back, and this is part 2 of my book club's very long list. So these are the next 14 books. We're going to get started. Book 15 is The Animals in That Country by Laura Jean McKay. I have never heard of this book before. It came out in 2020. It has 3.41 stars on Goodreads. And they're saying here, fiction, sci-fi, dystopian. Okay, let's see. It says, hard drinking, foul mouthed, and allergic to bullshit, Jean is not your usual grandma. She's never been good at getting on with other humans, apart from her beloved granddaughter, Kimberly. Instead, she surrounds herself with animals, working as a guide in an outback wildlife park. And although Jean talks to all her charges, she has a particular soft spot for a young dingo called Sue. As disturbing news arrives of a pandemic sweeping the country, Jean realizes this is no ordinary flu. Its chief symptom is that its victims begin to understand the language of animals, first mammals, then birds, and insects too. As the flu progresses, the unstoppable voices become overwhelming, and many people begin to lose their minds, including Jean's infected son, Lee. When he takes off with Kimberly, heading south, Jean feels the pull to follow her kin. Okay, this was first published in 2020. I don't really care. I really don't. That's just me, but yeah, this is not really my cup of tea, unfortunately. Okay, the next book on the list is The Boy from the Sea by Garrett Carr. This one has 4 stars on Goodreads, and it is historical fiction, and it's Ireland. Okay, so that's interesting. All right, so this one was published in 2025 in February. Okay, I haven't heard anyone talk about this one. It says 1973, in a close-knit community on Ireland's west coast, a baby is found abandoned on the beach. Named Brendan Bonar by Ambrose, the fisherman who adopts him, Brendan will become a source of fascination and hope for a town caught in the storm of a rapidly changing world. Ambrose, a man more comfortable at sea than on land, brings Brendan into his home out of love. But it's a decision that will fracture his family and force him to try to understand himself and those he cares for. Okay, sounds like a family story. It could be very interesting. I'm liking the fact that it's Irish, because we don't read a lot of Irish books. But, I don't know if I would vote for it outright, but if it wound up on a list, I really would be happy to read it, because it does sound interesting. Okay, the next book on the list is The Romantic by William Boyd. This one has 4.15 stars on Goodreads. It came out in October of 2022, and it's historical fiction. Has a little bit of romance in it, literary fiction. Okay. Which is kind of normal. It's William Boyd. Okay. Born in 1799. Okay, I'm already liking the time period. Cashel Greville Ross experiences myriad lives, joyous and devastating. Years of luck and unexpected loss. Moving from County Cork to London, from Waterloo to Zanzibar, Cashel seeks his fortune across continents in war and in peace. He faces a terrible moral choice in a village in Sri Lanka as part of the East Indian Army. He enters the world of the romantic poet in Pisa. In Ravenna, he meets a woman who will live in his heart for the rest of his days. As he travels the world as a soldier, a farmer, a felon, a writer, a father, a lover, he experiences all the vicissitudes of life, and through the accelerating turbulence of the 19th century, he discovers who he truly is. This is the romance of life itself. and the beating heart of the romantic. Oh, okay. This sounds like it could be kind of interesting. All right. I see you, William Boyd. I have not read a William Boyd, but there have been some that I have, have read the descriptions and have said, oh, that sounds like a good book, and have not read it. So I definitely would think about voting for this one. It sounds very, very interesting. Okay, now this next one, I'm just kind of with the side eye because I can't. Intermezzo, Sally Rooney. Okay, that one has 3.89 stars. I know you hadn't heard a lot about it, but here we go. This is considered literary fiction, romance, and Ireland as well. Okay, it says, aside from the fact that they are brothers, Peter and Ivan Kubek seem to have little in common. Peter is a Dublin lawyer in his 30s, successful, competent, and apparently unassailable. But in the wake of their father's death, he's medicating himself to sleep and struggling to manage his relationships with two very different women. His enduring first love, Sylvia, and Naomi, a college student for whom life is one long joke. Ivan is a 22-year-old competitive chess player. He has always seen himself as socially awkward, a loner, the antithesis of his glib elder brother. Now, in the early weeks of his bereavement, Ivan meets Margaret, an older woman emerging from her own turbulent past, and their lives become rapidly and intensely intertwined. Okay, for two grieving brothers and the people they love, this is a new interlude, a period of desire, despair, and possibility, a chance to find out how much one life might hold inside itself without breaking. Pass. I do not care. Girl gives no F's. I mean, do not care. All right, next book. Butter by Asako Yuzuki. Okay, this is it's considered a thriller mystery Japan. It says, there are two things that I can simply not tolerate: feminist and margarine. Gourmet cook Manako Kaji sits in Tokyo Detention Center, convicted of the serial murders of lonely businessmen who she is said to have seduced with her delicious home cooking. The case has captured the nation's imagination, but Kaji refuses to speak with the press, entertaining no visitors. That is until journalist Rika Machida writes a letter asking for her recipe for beef stew, and Kaji can't resist writing back. Rika, the only woman in her news office, works late each night, rarely cooking more than ramen. As the visits unfold between her and the steely Kaji, they are closer to a masterclass in food than journalistic research. Rika hopes this gastronomic exchange will help her soften Kaji, but it seems that she might be the one changing. With each meal she eats, something is awakening in her body. Might she and Kaji have more in common than she once thought? Inspired by the real case of the convicted con woman and serial killer, the Kankatsu Killer, Asako Yuzuki's Butter is a vivid, unsettling exploration of misogyny, obsession, romance, and the transgressive pleasures of food in Japan. Okay, that one sounds interesting to me. All right, so the next one is Your House Will Pay by Steph Cha. This one has 4.08 stars. It came out in 2019, and it is considered to be a mystery, historical fiction, crime. Okay, so this one says, a powerful and taut novel about racial tensions in LA, following two families, one Korean American, one African American, grappling with the effects of a decades-old crime. In the wake of the police shooting of a Black teenager, Los Angeles is as tense as it's been since the unrest of the early 1990s. Protests and vigils are being staged all over the city. It's in this dangerous tinderbox that two families must finally confront their past. Grace Park lives a sheltered existence, living at home with her Korean immigrant parents, working at the family pharmacy, and trying her best to understand why her sister Miriam hasn't spoken to their mother in years. The chasm in her family is growing wider and wider by the day, and Grace is desperate for reconciliation and frustrated by the feeling that her sister and parents are shielding her from the true cause of the falling out. Sean Matthews is dealing with a fractured family of his own. His sister Ava was murdered as a teenager back in 1991, and this new shooting is bringing up painful memories. Plus, his cousin Ray is just released from prison and needs to reconnect with their family after so many years away. While Sean is trying his best to keep his demons at bay, he's not sure Ray can do the same. So this is another one that sounds like it could be kind of interesting. Okay, all right. The next book is The Lost Bookshop. This one has 4 stars, 4.03 stars. It's by Evie Woods, and it is a fantasy fiction, magical realism. That's not really my thing, but okay. All right, it says, on a quiet street in Dublin, a lost bookshop is awaiting to be found. For too long, Opaline, Martha, and Henry have been the side characters in their own lives. But when a vanishing bookshop casts its spell, these 3 unsuspecting strangers will discover that their own stories are every bit as extraordinary as the ones found in the pages of their beloved books. And by unlocking the secrets of the shelves, they find themselves transported to a world of wonder where nothing is as it seems. Okay, I don't really care. All right, the next one, another one I feel like this is kind of like a self-help book. It's psychology, health. I don't like reading self-help books. This one is called Music as Medicine: How We Can Harness Its Therapeutic Power. I don't care. Anyway, it says music insinuates itself into our earliest memories. It is intimately connected to our emotional regulation and cognition. Its shared rhythms and sounds are essential to our social behaviors. That is why we can remember songs word for word years later, or why certain music has the power to uplift us almost instantly. Music is more than a vehicle for entertainment, and it's also a powerful tool for lifelong health. In Music and Medicine, best-selling author and neuroscientist Daniel Levitin delves into the latest research on the interaction of music, mood, health, and the biology of our brain. In it, he explains how music can lead to lasting improvements in our brain and body, increasing brain function and connectivity, boosting neuroplasticity, and even strengthening our immune system. From promoting relaxation when we're stressed and supporting stroke victims to recover the ability to walk, improving memory for those suffering with Alzheimer's disease, and help manage chronic pain, music has an extraordinary therapeutic potential that is yet to be fully realized. Okay, yeah, no, I really don't want to do it. Anyway, next book on the list is Dream Count. That has 3.97 stars. It's, of course, literary fiction. It's by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and it's her first book after 10 years of not writing. Okay, so this one, Chiamaka is a Nigerian travel writer living in America. Alone in the midst of the pandemic, she recalls her past lovers and grapples with her choices and regrets. Zokora, her best friend, is a lawyer who has been successful at everything until betrayed and brokenhearted. She must turn to the person she thought she needed least. Omologor, Chiamaka's bold, outspoken cousin, is a financial powerhouse in Nigeria who begins to question how well she knows herself. In Kadiatu, Chiamaka's housekeeper, is proudly raising her daughter in America, but faces an unthinkable hardship that threatens all she has worked to achieve. In Dream Count, Adichie trains her fierce eye on these women in a sparkling, transcendent novel that takes up the very nature of love itself. Is true happiness ever attainable, or is it just a fleeting state? And how honest must we be with ourselves in order to love and to be loved? A trenchant reflection on the choices we make and those made for us, on daughters and mothers, on our interconnected world. Dream Count pulses with emotional urgency and poignant, unflinching observations on the human heart, in language that soars with beauty and power. It confirms Adichie's status as one of the most exciting and dynamic writers on the literary landscape. So yeah, I mean, duh, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. Okay. The next book on the list is Fundamentally, and this is by Nusiba Yunus, and this book came out in February of this year, 2025. This one, I don't know it. I don't think I've heard of it, but it is literary fiction LGBTQ, so that's interesting. So it says, okay, this is also a debut novel. So when Nadia Amin, a witty and big-hearted PhD, publishes an article on de-radicalization, everything changes. United Nations comes calling with an opportunity to put her theory into practice and lead a rehabilitation program for women caught in the crosshairs of harmful ideology. And why not? Abandoned by her mother and devastated by unrequited love, she leaps at the chance. In Iraq, Nadia quickly realizes she's in over her head. The UN is a mess of competing interests, and her team consists of goody two-shoes Sherry, who never passes up an opportunity to remind Nadia of her objections, and Pierre, a snippy Frenchman, who has no qualms about perpetually scrolling through Grindr. But then Nadia meets Sarah, a hilarious foul-mouthed East Londoner who was put into radicalism at just 15. The two are kindred spirits, and Nadia vows to get Sarah home. So as the rehabilitation program picks up traction, Sarah reveals a secret that upends everything, forcing Nadia to make a drastic choice. In the fallout, Nadia's brown savior fantasies crumble, leaving her to wonder if she can save someone who doesn't want to be saved. I don't know. I'm not really sure what this book is about. I'm reading it and I'm thinking, what? I don't know. It's not really calling my name, this one. All right, the next one I have on, this has been on my TBR for a long time. This is The Overstory by Richard Powers. It says The Overstory is a sweeping, impassioned work of activism and resistance that is also a stunning evocation of and tie-in to the natural world. From the roots to the crown and back to the seeds, Richard Powers' 12th novel unfolds in concentric rings of interlocking fables that range from antebellum New York to the late 20th century timber wars of the Pacific Northwest and beyond. There is a world alongside ours, vast, slow, interconnected, resourceful, magnificently inventive, and almost invincible to us. This is the story of a handful of people who learn how to see that world and who are drawn up into its unfolding catastrophe. Okay, now this one is really, it's a nature book. It's considered literary fiction. It came out in 2018, and it has, like I said, 4.12 stars. Like, wow. So yeah, maybe one day I'll get to read it. I don't know I don't think this one will go through, personally speaking. All right, this next one is called Civilisation Francaise or Civilization Francaise. That's how it's written. And it's by an author who's called Mary Fleming. The book came out last year in July. I had never heard of this book before. And the person that suggested it said that she was friends with this writer and the writer could actually come to the book club, like either online or whatever. So it says, when recent college graduate Lily Owens enrolls in the Civilisation Francaise course at the Sorbonne in 1982, when I came to France in 1990, that's the course I took. She hopes to put a difficult childhood behind her and to find direction for her future. She moves into a mansion on the Place des Vosges, where her job is to help the housekeeper, Germaine, care for the elderly half-blind Aminia Quinon, another expat American. The three women live alone in this old house of silence and secrets, mostly revolving in their own worlds. When Lily extends an invitation to a friend, all of their lives are upended. Moving, sometimes humorous, and always engrossing, Civilisation Francaise is a powerful story about facing our past, discovering a future, and the meaning of home. I mean, okay, why not? I mean, it's not like jumping out at me or anything, but why not? Okay, next book on the list is 54 Miles by Leonard Pitts Jr. Okay, so we read this one already, but it was fantastic. I wouldn't mind revisiting it next year if that's what it came to. Not a problem with me. Okay, so this one has 4.53 stars. It is considered historical fiction, African American history. And it says, the freestanding successor and next novel by the author of the critically acclaimed The Last Thing You Surrender. Leonard Pitts Jr.'s 54 Miles launches forward 20 years of the fateful weeks of March 1965, from the infamous Bloody Sunday March at the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma on the 7th to the triumphant entry into Montgomery on the 25th that climaxed the voting rights campaign, and the families who find themselves confronting the past amid another flashpoint in American history. Young Adam, who has been raised in Harlem by his white father, George, and black mother, Thelma, goes back to the parents' home state of Alabama to participate in the voting rights campaign, only to be brutalized in the Bloody Sunday melee. He is still recovering from this when he is struck. Okay, I'm not going to read all of this because it's going to give away a lot of spoilers. But yeah, anyway, this is a great sequel to The Last Thing You Surrender. Definitely pick up The Last Thing You Surrender first and then pick up 54 Miles. You will not be disappointed. Both of these books are 5 stars. Okay. Now, last but not least on our list is Master Slave Husband Wife, An Epic Journey from Slavery to Freedom by Elon Wu. This one has 3.98 stars. This one was released in 2023. And it is, of course, nonfiction, a biography, history. So this one, it says, the remarkable story, true story of Ellen and William Craft, who escaped slavery through daring determination and disguise when Ellen, passing as a wealthy disabled white man, and William posing as his slave. In 1848, a year of international democratic revolt, a young enslaved couple, Ellen and William Craft, achieved one of the boldest feats of self-emancipation in American history, posing as master and slave while sustained by their love as husband and wife. They made their escape together across more than 1,000 miles, riding out in the open on steamboats, carriages, and trains that took them from bondage in Georgia to the free states of the North. So yeah, this one is supposed to be really, really good. I've heard nothing but, great things about it. So that is the last book on the list. That makes 28 books. Now, there are 2 books on this portion of the list that I suggested. Let's see if you can guess which ones your girl suggested. It should be interesting to hear what you guys got to say about that. What 2 books did Dee Dee suggest? Now, here again, I'm going to ask again, which books on this portion of the list, do you find fascinating, interesting, that you think would make, a really good discussion, or things I should stay clear away because you read them and they weren't that good? Just let me know and let's have a discussion below. I cannot wait to hear your thoughts. Thanks so much for taking time to watch both of these videos, I hope. And I will see you again with another video really soon. Bye.